Okay, let's talk about your money. Because right now, the rules of the game here in New Zealand, they've just been totally flipped on their head. So if you've got a mortgage, maybe some savings, or you're even thinking about buying a house, you're going to want to stick around. We're going to lay out the winning strategy for what's coming next. So let's kick things off with a puzzle, a big one that's probably on your mind right now. The Reserve Bank just went and cut interest rates, so why in the world isn't your mortgage getting any cheaper? It feels like it should, right? Well, it turns out there's a really interesting reason why it's not, and we're going to unpack it. And to really get our heads around this, we need to take a step back, because what we're looking at is a massive turning point for New Zealand's economy. Seriously, this is a huge deal. And here's the number that started it all, 2.25%. That's the new official cash rate, or OCR. And with this single move, the Reserve Bank has basically stood up and said, the war is over. The fight against that inflationary dragon we've all been feeling, they're saying they've won. And what that really signals is we've probably hit the bottom of the interest rate cycle. So, why do this? What's the point? Well, the goal is pretty simple, really. It's all about kickstarting the economy. The thinking is, if you make it cheaper for the big banks to borrow money, they'll turn around and make it cheaper for us to borrow money. For mortgages, for businesses, you get the idea. Okay, so that brings us right back to our big mystery. If the official rate is going down, why aren't our fixed mortgage rates doing the same thing? In fact, some are even ticking up. It doesn't seem to add up, does it? All right, let's get into the weeds here, because this is the bit you really need to understand. First things first, you got to know there are two different kinds of rates we're talking about. The OCR, that's the official cash rate, is like the master switch for floating mortgage rates, the ones that can change from month to month. When the OCR moves up or down, those floating rates pretty much follow in lockstep. But, and this is a big but, the fixed-term rates that most of us are on, that's a whole different ballgame. They aren't priced on what the OCR is doing today. Nope. They're priced on what the market thinks the OCR is going to do in the future. It's all based on these things called wholesale swap rates, which are basically a big educated bet on the future. And here's the crazy part. Look at this. After the Reserve Bank cut the official rate, you'd expect these swap rates to drop too, right? Wrong. They actually went up. The 2-year and 5-year rates, the ones that decide your mortgage rate, they climbed. The market was basically saying, nice try, but we already knew you were going to do that. It's priced in, and we're already looking ahead and we don't see any more cuts on the horizon. So what does that all mean for you? It means the market was way ahead of the game. That rate cut wasn't a surprise to them at all. And the big takeaway here is that if you were waiting for those fixed mortgage rates to get just a little bit cheaper, well, that ship has probably sailed. The window for those truly rock-bottom rates, it might have just slammed shut. But don't despair. It's not all bad news, because this whole situation has kicked off something pretty wild, an all-out war between the banks. See, when the market slows down, they get desperate. And right now, they are fighting tooth and nail for your business. This war is being fought on two main battlegrounds. Battleground number one, cold, hard cash. ANZ came out swinging with a huge 1.5% cashback offer. I mean, that's potentially thousands of dollars in your pocket. It completely shook things up, and now the other banks are being forced to quietly match it just to stop their customers from jumping ship. And the second battleground is green loans for things like insulation or solar panels. And you have to see what Westpac is doing here. They're offering 0% interest for 5 years on up to $50,000. Let me just repeat that, 0% interest. It's basically free money. Compared to that, the 1% offers from ANZ and ASB just don't look as good, do they? Okay, so with all these aggressive deals being thrown around, a pretty smart question to ask is, which bank is actually the safest? This chart gives us a really clear answer. This total capital ratio thing, think of it like a bank's financial safety cushion. It's the buffer they have if things go wrong. And as you can see, the Cooperative Bank and ANZ have the biggest cushions by pretty solid margin. All right, so we've got the rate situation. We've got the banks at war. Let's see how this all comes together in the country's biggest housing market, Auckland. Because right now what we're seeing is a total stalemate. And it all comes down to one number. Just look at that, over 6,000. That's how many properties are currently listed for sale in Auckland. It's a massive wall of supply. And what that means is, if you're a buyer, the power has completely shifted. It is absolutely a buyer's market. But of course, There's another side to this story, and it's a tough one. 18.2%. That's nearly 1 in 5 homeowners who sold recently who actually lost money on the sale. They walked away with less than they paid. It's a really sobering number, and a stark reminder that the market doesn't just go in one direction. Okay, so let's recap. We've got a market that's hit a turning point. We've got banks fighting over you. We've got a stalemate in Auckland. So, what on earth do you do with all this information? Let's pull it all together and figure out your winning strategy. Well, if you're a first home buyer, listen up, because this could be what some are calling a Goldilocks window of opportunity. Not too hot, not too cold. Think about it. First, prices aren't really falling anymore, so that fear of buying into a dropping market, it's gone. Second, that wall of supply we talked about, it means you have tons of choice and real power to negotiate. And third, the Reserve Bank just loosened the rules so banks can now say yes to more people with smaller deposits. It's the perfect storm, really. Okay, time for some clear verdicts. Let's say your main goal is just getting the lowest possible interest rate. No fluff, just the best rate. Looking at the numbers, the winner is Westpac. They're the only major bank offering rates under 5% on every single fixed term, from 1 year all the way to 5. Simple as that. But maybe what you really need is a lump of cash right now. To cover legal fees, buy some furniture, that kind of thing. If cash is king for you, then the winner is ANZ, hands down. That 1.5% cashback offer is the most aggressive in the market, and it puts a serious chunk of change right back in your pocket. And finally, what about safety? Maybe you're not just thinking about today, but you want to know your money is with a rock-solid institution for the long haul. Well, if that's you, the numbers don't lie. Based on that financial armor we talked about, the capital ratios, the Cooperative Bank and ANZ come out on top as the financial fortresses. So, let's put it all together. The market seems to have found its floor. The banks are literally fighting each other to get your attention with deals and cash. All the pieces on the chessboard have been moved. The game has changed, which leaves just one final question. What's your next move?